Alright guys, this weekend in the Championship did not disappoint. We've got loads of talking points to go through, as well as our midweek score predictions in the second half of the video as well. So as always, do get your thoughts down below on what you made of your team's performance, and do leave your score predictions down there for the midweek matches that we have to come. But without any further ado, let's hop into the action. Starting out at Kenilworth Road for Luton up against QPR. Really impressive stuff from Luton here, who were just on QPR from minute one. Now, up until this point, there have been some pretty frustrating matches down at Kenilworth Road for Luton, this only being their second home win of the season, but everything about this performance was a Nathan Jones side down to its T. Brilliant opening goal. Adebayo sort of sniffs out danger in and around the 6-yard box, doesn't he? But the player who created that goal, Carlton Morris, oh my god, the footwork for the assist and then the ability to go ahead and chip it up like he did with his left foot. Superb stuff, and I thought that the forward two of Luton were causing QPR all sorts of problems throughout this one. The second goal from QPR's perspective was a little bit all over the place with a handful of mistakes, but once again a testament to how good Luton actually were on the press. QPR grabbed that goal back before Freeman went ahead and wrapped up in the 92nd minute. From QPR's perspective, I mean, a loss was always going to be around the corner, you know, given the great run that they were on, and dare I say it, maybe some of the speculation surrounding Michael Beale probably hasn't been helpful around the QPR camp recently, with his name being linked to both Rangers and Wolves jobs recently. I'm sure that as soon as that interest can be put to bed, the better for QPR, and they can get cracking on with their season. But brilliant stuff here from Luton. QPR just not quite at it in this one. Next then to Rotherham up against Huddersfield. A much needed win for Rotherham in this game, given how their last few matches are gone. You know, it was a really consistent start to the season, but we were just seeing this ever so slight tail off. So to get back on track against Huddersfield in this game was important. Cracking finish by Connor Washington as well, it must be said, to go ahead and open the scoring in this one. Huddersfield get a goal back themselves. Really well taken set piece. Sorba Thomas with the ball in, Danny Wood with the clever run across, and finishes it for 1-1. But from that point onwards, and then heading into the second half, Huddersfield probably quite disappointed with, one, how that goal for Rotherham comes about, and generally that lack of threat in the second half. There was that penalty appeal that was waved away, which on another day, you know, Huddersfield get given the penalty there and probably lead this one with a point. But generally speaking, there are still those frailties in at the back for Huddersfield that I think the majority of Championship sides have targeted recently. So yeah, for Rotherham to go ahead and play on those will also be something to think about from a Huddersfield perspective. I'm very interested to see Huddersfield in midweek. Obviously my side, North End, will go ahead and take them on, so I'm interested to see what sort of level they're at this point in time compared to us. But good win there for Rotherham in that one to get back to winning ways. Next then to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against Millwall. Millwall, who haven't been all too fortunate on the road so far this season, picking up all 3 points from this one, and Bristol City failing to gather some momentum from that win they got in midweek over Preston. It was Millwall who took the lead in this one. Bradshaw with the opener after his initial effort had been saved, managed to follow it in with the rebound. Nigel Pearson made an interesting decision for these last couple of games to go ahead and drop goalkeeper Daniel Bentley in favour for Max O'Leary. The second goal is a little bit of a mess from a Bristol City perspective. I think more so being a communication issue, whereby the goalkeeper goes for it. There's a jumble up between him and that back line, and in the end Fleming is able to go ahead and pounce on that mistake. Obviously before that, Bristol City had drawn level through that Hutchinson own goal. Millwall did have the chance to go ahead and seal this one up through Benica Phobe, but the former Bristol City man had his penalty saved. So frustrating one for Bristol City, all things considered. It was a good away performance there from Millwall, who had the better of it. If we go by the stats for this one, 16 shots, 7 on target, compared to Bristol City's 9 and just 1 shot on target for this one. And yeah, more general frustration around Ashton Gate really. And after that, to Burnley 4, Swansea 0. Burnley climbed to the top of the Championship after a prolific performance against Swansea in this one. We mentioned it would be a real battle for the ball against two sort of possession-orientated sides in this one, but the quality in the final third was so obvious that Burnley had it in an absolute abundance compared to Swansea in this one, who were quite sloppy on multiple of occasions in this one. With Burnley this season, I do think they've looked the most cohesive, well-coached sides in the league, and I mean that's not massively surprising given they've got, you know, Vincent Kompany and all the technical players that they brought in this summer, but sheerly from the fact of how quickly Kompany has actually been able to gelled this entire team together, I think is a serious testament to his coaching, both from a tactical and sort of man management point of view, to go ahead and bed all these new personalities into one cohesive unit. But there were some fantastic goals and passages of play from Burnley in this one, it has to be said, and some wonderfully prolific finishes as well. Could have even had more, if we're being honest, by the chances going forward. Swansea wasn't an ideal afternoon. I think their afternoon was summed up by that Joel Perreault red card, really. A little bit silly. Did he mean it? Did he not mean it? With that little bit of a stamp in retaliation. Not ideal for Swansea, given he'll now be serving a suspension and the games that they've got to come. Next then to Cardiff up against Coventry. Coventry getting back to winning ways in this one with an important 3 points. I think that given their situation at the moment, you know, they are still at the foot of the table, but having about 3 games in hand on the majority of the teams above them, it's important from a Coventry perspective that they just stay within touching distance of those sides up and around them at the moment, and then when those games in hand finally do kick into place, hopefully from their perspective they go ahead and rise up the Championship. Coventry sort of grew into this one as the first half went on. It was Victor Gyökeres with that moment of quality, the ball falling for him in the right place to make it 1-0. Cardiff certainly improved after the break, though weren't quite themselves for that first 45 minutes. The controversy comes in the second half when Robinson puts the ball in the back of the net, and then seemed like quite a lengthy chat then between the referee and linesman, ultimately ruling that one out, I think in the end for an offside decision. But it all looked to be very tight, and you know, a question of who touches the ball and where what Robinson's position is at that point in time. Cardiff continue to go ahead and knock on the door. Coventry have a few near escapes, but in the end nothing quite falls for them, and a good result there from Coventry given their current situation, but frustrating really from a Cardiff perspective that they couldn't get anything over the line in the second half given some of the openings they had. After that, to the Riverside for Middlesbrough 1, Blackburn 2. This ridiculous run that Blackburn are currently on, whereby they'll lose one week, win the next, lose, win, continues for another week as they get past Middlesbrough in this one. They were the better side in the first half. There seemed to be a sort of 20-25 minute period where everything just seemed to be going Blackburn's way in this one. A Linehan own goal giving them the lead after just 4 minutes, and then a thunderous strike from Sam Gallagher to make it 2. Sam Gallagher, one of those players who just every so often will come out with an outrageous moment of quality. He almost set up Blackburn's third goal in this one as well, as they looked like they could have run riot in that first half. Middlesbrough did pull a goal back just before half time, and in the second half we got a complete momentum shift. Blackburn went into fully protection mode, sort of trying to hold on to the points, and in the end they went ahead and did that. But my God, Middlesbrough had quite a few close shaves for this one. Fair play to Kaminski, stood up to everything that came his way, although Middlesbrough were horrifically wasteful in that second half. It served as a reminder of the sort of football that this Borough side can still play, but those evident issues of what they're lacking in the final third once again coming to the surface in this one. So the sooner Middlesbrough sort out their managerial situation, the better for them. They're in limbo at this stage, and Blackburn, I mean, I'm sure everyone's money is on them losing next week because this streak currently has been ridiculous. After that, to Preston up against Stoke. This one wasn't an enjoyable one from a Preston perspective. Probably the most dull game of football I've seen at Deepdale all season. Certainly the first 45 minutes of this one, just no goal-mouth action whatsoever. But the amount of times that I'd see this type of performance from an Alex Neil side when he was the Preston manager, in terms of us going to away grounds around the Championship, we completely nullified the opposition, and then we'd have those patterns of play to go ahead and open things up in the second half, and that's exactly what they did in this one. You know, this was a classic Alex Neil away performance right down to a T. Brilliant ball cut back from Gale into Smallbone for the first one, and the second goal is just what Tyrese Campbell does best. Shifts the ball onto his left foot. Thought Bambo Diaby could have done better for that one, to be honest, but that's what he's best at, and was a real cultured finish, and maybe a signal of him sort of getting back to his best. Certainly one of the more natural finishes, I'd suggest, in the Championship. But from a Preston perspective, we had virtually nothing going forward in this game. To finish the full 90, having not had a shot on target at home, is nothing short of abysmal, really. And I mean, it speaks to our current options up front. Once again, I thought our weaknesses in this game were absolutely crying out. The lack of a natural right wing back and recognised proper striker to play up front with Emile Reece, and the sort of lack of options we had to come on from the bench to change things was scary in this game. But yeah, Alex Neil completely did run low over in this game. Good stuff from Stoke. Next then to Reading up against West Brom. Probably wasn't one for the footballing purists in terms of the actual spectacle of this game not being the best between these two sides. Reading just weren't quite at it in this one and didn't offer up that much of a threat in the final third, and West Brom, who are just coming out of this Steve Bruce era now, ultimately having 2 moments of quality to go ahead and decide this game. But by no means was this a performance that sort of blew Reading away or anything like that. But Matty Phillips takes the opening goal really quite well after 25 minutes, and then following up from that in the second half, Jeff Hendrick gets caught on the ball, and a terrific finish from Gardner Hickman to go ahead and seal off the 3 points for West Brom. It's an interesting situation that they currently find themselves in. They are 20th in the table, averaging 1 point per game so far this season after 14 matches. But as other sides have showcased, the league is so congested at this point in the season that it really only takes a side like West Brom to string together 2 or 3 wins on the bounce, and you absolutely fly up this league at the moment. There's not that much to separate West Brom from where they are now into the playoff challenges. You know, a side like Reading who are up in 6th in the moment. So good win for West Brom. Not the best game this weekend though. After that, to Bramall Lane for Sheffield United 3, Blackpool 3. If you were in the stadium for this one, I want to get your guys' verdict on it in the comments down below, because this was, an advert for Championship football. This had absolutely everything, and I don't think we're going to top this game in terms of a spectacle for the rest of this season. This had absolutely everything, from incompetent refereeing, dodgy decisions, to comebacks, red cards, a penalty miss, a brawl at full time. This one was just absolutely bonkers. From a Sheffield United perspective, things started out fairly well for them. McAtee and Ndiaye giving them a 2-goal lead. Blackpool getting back into it though, as we see with this, what is quite a direct 4-3-3 with the sort of personnel that Appleton lines up with. 3 sort of natural strikers all forming part of that forward 3. Jerry Yates, who's been on absolute fire for Blackpool recently, pulling 2 goals back before the half-time mark. And then in the second half, this game just descended into absolute madness, and there were a series of poor refereeing mistakes, I thought, in that second half that influenced both teams. The red cards, I don't have a massive complaint about the 2 Blackpool ones that were given in normal time. I think that Ekpiteta tackle is a little bit late and rash and already been on the yellow card, and the Thompson one is just a little bit of petulance, really, going ahead and kicking the ball at the opposition player when you're already on a yellow card. But after the match and the red cards that ensued from that was, I think, a case of the referee having lost total control of this game, and given some of the decisions that had gone prior in terms of, goals being ruled out, penalties being given, penalties not being given. I thought that influenced both teams in the end. But to finish as a 3-3 draw, Sheffield United getting that 98th minute equaliser just topped off what was an absolute bonkers game in the end. And yeah, I think Blackpool are going to be appealing that Shane Lavery red card, aren't they? After that, to the Stadium of Light for Sunderland up against Wigan. Had the feeling that this could be a game where Sunderland went ahead and turned their fortunes, and in the end it transpired to be that way, even with Wigan's excellent record on the road so far this season. The first half probably followed a little bit of a familiar pattern to what Sunderland have been accustomed to recently, getting some decent chances in and around the box, but ultimately lacking that quality to go ahead and finish any of them off. It was Patrick Roberts who was looking like their main threat on that right hand side throughout the vast majority of this one, causing Curtis Till all sorts of problems in that Wigan back line. But in typical fashion, it was Charlie White who went ahead and opened the scoring, somewhat against the run of play, but to cap off a good first half from that Wigan side to go ahead and send them up 1-0 up at the break. Tony Mowbray did manage to get a reaction from his side in the second half though, and 2 goals went ahead and turned it around for Sunderland. At half time there was probably a lot of Sunderland fans fearing for the worst, given how some of their recent games had gone. But good stuff there from Sunderland to go ahead and get back to winning ways. Disappointing from Wigan's point of view that they didn't manage to manage that second half like we've seen them do in some of their other away matches this season. Then for the late kick-off on Saturday, we had Watford beating Norwich by 2-1. Watford, a side who I'm just really struggling to get a consistent read on at this point in time. The quality in this squad is absolutely undoubtable, and when things do click for them in the final third, they play through the gears and through the lines. They have it in them to score some fantastic goals and come up with some real moments of quality, but can we see this and can we bank on seeing this from them on a consistent basis from now on? Not all too sure, not fully committing to that right now, but good stuff from Watford in this one, particularly in the first half. They obviously had that setback of the penalty miss, but didn't take them too long after that for Loser to go ahead and rectify from his miss from the penalty spot and go ahead and give Watford the lead. Keenan Davis then makes it 2 before Josh Sargent pulls 1 back for Norwich before half time with really quite a smart finish in at the goalkeeper's near post. Second half, slightly better from a Norwich perspective in terms of Isaac Hayden coming on, giving them a bit more control in the midfield and things like that. Looking forward to seeing a bit more of him in a Norwich City shirt. I think he gives them a little bit more of a different dynamic in the midfield. But from a Norwich perspective, they've been pretty average, to be honest with you. Maybe even a little bit below that for the past few weeks now, and yet they're still only 1 point off the top of the Championship, which sort of speaks to the bizarre nature of the division at the moment. So yeah, Watford back on track. It's just about consistently putting out performances like this and how they played in the first half from now on. And then finally for Hull up against Birmingham, things don't get much easier for Hull, do they? Bit of a mess coming into this one, given the kickoff was delayed because Hull had to sort out their goals being too big going into this one, and yeah, Hull fans didn't really get much in terms of value for money seeing this one. To be fair to them, in the first half I did think there were some signs of promise in terms of runs being made, a few passages of play, things not quite clicking, but there was a semblance of what we could see they were trying to achieve there. Ultimately, Deeney puts Birmingham 1-0 up though, from the penalty spot, and I think that second goal early on in that second half really just went ahead and killed Hull from that moment after. And this does seem like quite a weak side in terms of mentally. It only takes 1 or 2 goals to go in for this Hull side to just crumble at the moment, and I think that was on show in the second half really. They just never looked like getting back into that one. Things could have got even better for Birmingham had Deeney gone ahead and put away that second penalty, but it wasn't to be in the end. But in terms of a Birmingham perspective, really like the look of what they're building at the moment, particularly like the balance they've got going on in midfield at the moment, sort of Bielik sitting, then you've got Hannibal and Chong going after the ball, Bakuna as well, great moment of quality for his goal. But yeah, from a Hull perspective, really worrying second half. But guys, those were all the matches that we had going on in the Championship over this weekend. As always, do get your thoughts in the comments down below in terms of what you made of your team's performance. But without any further ado, let's hop into my midweek score predictions. So hopping into the midweek matches, Huddersfield up against Preston. As a North End fan, I'm not coming into this game with a great deal of confidence, but Huddersfield also don't have much of a bounce about them at the moment either. I think I'm going for a 1-1 draw in that game. Norwich up against Luton. Big game here for Norwich. Can they get back to winning ways against a tough, gritty Luton side? I think Luton could take this one on the road, you know. 2-1 Luton, I'm going for that game. Swansea up against Reading. Both teams will be looking to get back to winning ways after disappointing performances across the weekend. Do you know what? I think Swansea being at home, even without the process of Perot in the final third, I think I'm going to back the Swans, although Reading do have a decent bounce back ability. 2-0 Swansea I'm going to say for that game though. Blackburn up against Sunderland. Sunderland, luckily for them, have caught Blackburn on the perfect opportunity of their win-loss streak, and for no reason other than that, I'm going to back Sunderland for an away win in this one. 2-1 Sunderland I'm saying, although Blackburn did look quite good at the weekend, especially in that first half. Stoke up against Rotherham. Really impressed with what I saw from Stoke over the weekend against North End. I think that Alex Neil is quite good at picking out those small intricacies in terms of a weakness within the opposition. I expect Rotherham to put up a challenge, but I think Stoke may just take this one. 1-0 to the home side I'm saying. West Brom up against Bristol City. West Brom got a decent opportunity here to go back-to-back in terms of wins, especially against a pretty out-of-form Bristol City side who have looked a little bit suspect at the back recently. 2-1 West Brom I'm saying for that game. For the Wednesday matches, Birmingham up against Burnley should be a good one. Burnley currently on the longest unbeaten run in the Championship, but Birmingham have been no mugs as of late. Think I'm just going to edge Burnley there, but wouldn't be surprised if Birmingham do snatch a draw. Blackpool up against Hull. Hull have been absolutely all over the place recently. What what could play into their hands for this one is the fact that Blackpool do have several players suspended coming into this one, but even with those suspensions, I think Blackpool still take this one. 2-0 Blackpool, I'm saying, for that game. Coventry up against Sheffield United. I think I'm edging towards a draw. Sheffield United, bit all over the place in midweek against Blackpool. Coventry slowly getting back to that trend of being a little bit more solid. Going to go for a 1-1 in that game. QPR up against Cardiff. Things didn't quite fall for Cardiff in the final third over the weekend, and I'm not sure they will in midweek either. QPR will be keen to go ahead and get back to winning ways. I think they may do that in this one. 2-0 QPR, I'm saying. Wigan up against Middlesbrough. Quite an unpredictable matchup here. We got to see probably both sides of Middlesbrough across the weekend, what they were good at and what they were poor at as well, ultimately finishing in another defeat 2-1 against Blackburn. I think Wigan's resilience may just get them over the line in this one. 1-0 Wigan, I'm saying, for that one. Finally then to the den for Millwall up against Watford. Now, I've been guilty in the past of falling into the trap of thinking, oh wow, you know, Watford are just going to completely blitz everyone. They're going to go on a little bit of a run here after we've seen a few dazzling performances from them. But ultimately, consistency is what Watford have struggled for to go ahead and string together those back-to-back wins. And because of that, the factor of the den as well, and Millwall's performance at the weekend, I'm going to flip the script a little bit. I think Millwall may take this one, and Watford may still struggle for that bit of consistency. 2-1 Millwall, I'm saying, in that game, but Watford could very easily walk away with all 3 points. As you can see to the side of me though, guys, those are my score predictions heading into the midweek matches. We'll be very interested to get your guys' verdict on all of these matches in the comments down below. But apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and make sure to stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Thanks for tuning in though, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.